Well, this is such a joy. First of all, welcome everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. It's such an honor to be part of your journey, being your You-est You. And Laurie, thank you for being here on the show with me, hang in with me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on your podcast and I adore you. So,
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual.
good.
And the feeling is mutual. Your story to me is so inspirational. And I like to say this because, it's easy to look at like, okay, you've got your four daughters, you've got this business now, you are thriving. And it can seem like, oh, that just happened. That was just
Yeah.
easy. That just happened. You've got a podcast, you've got a book, you're coaching and it I know from working with you and coaching you and also just, following your story that it didn't just fall into your lap. This did
No.
not just happen. Let's like for those that don't know you yet, maybe just talk a little bit. I know your book, Sandwiched, and your story has so much richness to it about, finding yourself and pivoting. Maybe just to give like a little background for people who don't know you that
Yeah,
like there
I'd
were
love
some
to.
times wasn't
Yeah.
easy.
So, I'm first and foremost, I'm a mother of four incredibly beautiful daughters. I'm what I call a recovering caregiver. I cared for my elderly parents for 14 and a half years. My mom had dementia for 12 years, and then my dad lived for another 2 years after that and just recently passed away in November.
Mm.
I am a divorcee. I was married for 26 years, the father of my four daughters, and now I am a author, a relationship coach, and now podcaster. The title of my book is Sandwiched, a memoir of holding on and letting go. My book is about so many topics. It's about family, it's about marriage, it's about parenting, it's about adoption because I'm adopted. It's about the sandwich generation. And if anybody doesn't know what the sandwich generation is, it's when you are raising children or at least paying for, you either have children in the home or you are still supporting an adult child and you are caring for your elderly parents in some capacity. And that actually constitutes between the ages of 45 and 65, that constitutes 45% of the population, believe it or not, within that age range. So it is a very large percentage of the population, and it is an issue that touches so many of us. But really what my book is about, it's about my introspective journey from feeling very alone most of my life to finding belonging.
Mm.
And that path, has a spiritual aspect to it. It has a trauma aspect to it because I experienced childhood trauma. Just being adopted alone is a traumatic experience, but also other types of trauma in my childhood. And so it's my journey to crawling out of a very dark place and during an 8-year period of time in my life when my whole world was turned upside down because during that time my marriage also was falling apart.
Mm.
So I had the triple whammy. I was raising 14 daughters. I was caring for my elderly parents and my marriage was falling apart.
Mm.
So
That
talk
sounds
about getting hit from all sides. So, and I know we're going to probably go back to that, but just fast forward to where I am today through all those years of growth, coaching, therapy, spiritual work. Which is, it has been a shit ton of work, pardon my French,
yeah.
but and it's not always easy, but it has been worth every single ounce of effort that you put into it because I am in such a better place now. And I have created a life that I love and I created it intentionally. Right. And it goes back to, you're the life designer. You have the Life Designer Coach Academy.
Yeah.
I probably could have used that when I was going through this, because I kind of did it on my own. I
Yeah.
took bits and pieces from here and there and
Yeah.
put it all together.
You puzzled it together. You
Yeah.
made it fit. We'll come back to this, really loving the life you have and how I love what you said. You created it intentionally. That's a very important. I'm underlining that, the intention piece. You
Yeah.
designed it. Going back to, I'm just imagining, I mean, really, it's like the trifecta, right? That sandwiched between your parents that I know you took really exquisite care of, 4 teenage daughters, and
Yeah.
then, getting out of a marriage is it's one of the highest stress experiences.
Oh, yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it at the time, but it ranks number 2
Yeah. Yeah.
as the most stressful life experience. And I had no idea when I was going through that.
Yeah. Yeah. What light turned on within you? How did you deal with that breakdown? What drove you into the whole arena, the whole realm of doing more of that inner work? Like, was there a book you read? Did something happen? Did you like just crash? Like,
You
what
know,
helped
I
you?
think that, like a lot of people, we need to hit rock bottom
Yeah.
before we do anything. And, Oprah's analogy is, and I am victim of this, as, we get a little tap of, what's going on. And then you get a little nudge, right? And then, you might get a little shove. Well, I had to wait for the emotional 2x4 to hit me upside the head, right? Which was a betrayal it wasn't infidelity, it was a betrayal in my marriage. And
Mm.
that was the 2x4 that really woke me up. And I had been doing yoga, and I was starting to dip my toe into the spiritual world. And it was a safe place for me to land, because I would deal with all this drama and crazy caregivers that were doing all kinds of, stealing and emotionally seducing my dad and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I had a very unsupportive husband at the time. And so that ended up being my sanctuary, for lack of a better word. And so through that, also, I signed up for an energy course. I didn't even know what an energy class was, but we started reading spiritual books, and we read an incredible book by Peter Levine, which is um, called Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma. So, I started looking at my past childhood. I put myself into therapy. Um, and I also surrounded myself with a group of like-minded women who were on a similar journey as me. And it was those things that again, intentionally created. I was grasping at some point, I was grasping at straws of like, okay, I need to make sense of what's going on in my life, because it's
Yeah.
not making sense. So let me grasp on anything that feels safe, that can help me crawl out of this very dark space. I didn't have a light. I was in a
Mm.
very, very, you know, dark place emotionally.
Yeah.
And so I slowly climbed out. And the other piece that I think is really important, and as coaches, I'm a life coach also, uh, is we have to look at our part in it, right? We have to turn the mirror towards us, lovingly turn the mirror towards ourselves and say, okay, what's my part in this? What do I have control over, and what don't I have control over? And how can I change what I do have control over?
That right there, Laurie, I think, and I'm just feeling, if you're listening right now and you're in a tough place, in a dark night of the soul, you feel like you're kind of in this place you can't get out. um, it's something I believe in, and I'm hearing you say is, first of all, you didn't know where to look, and you just started doing whatever you could do next. One of them being was this kind of feeling like, I wonder about this energy course. And then you read a
Mm-hmm.
book. And so sometimes it could be a book, it could be a conversation, it could be, maybe it's this podcast or your podcast or conversation you hear. And that, to me, what I'm hearing is you didn't even know that light within you. You didn't feel anything. It almost sounds like it was kind of a numb, dark, bleak time.
Yes, but I was getting nudges. I mean, I was getting messages, you need
Yeah.
to do something. You need to do something.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting bigger and bigger until I had no choice but to address it. Right. And that's when I'm like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. So
Yeah.
let me explore what feels right. And I had enough. The energy course really taught me about the felt sense and about energy and about the light side and dark sides of us.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that work. And, we also, through this energy course, there's a group of women and we're still friends today. And we've added people and it's expanded. But through that, we had a book club for several years, a spiritual
Mm,
book club. So we would read a different spiritual book and then we'd come and talk about it.
yeah.
So that was super helpful. We started going on retreats together and doing one women's trip a year, which we continue to do. Got a little messy during COVID, but we continue to do. And typically we go to the wilderness. So we've been to Sequoia and we've been to Zion and we're going to the Grand Canyon next year. So, nature based, and we bring a spiritual aspect to it.
Mm. I want to hone in on two things. One is, and this is really important, and it's something I believe very strongly in, it's what I infuse in the work I do, and I know for you as well, is those nudges, those
Yes.
intuitive tap you on the shoulder, gut feeling, senses, something is off or something needs to change. You get, like you said, you had the 2x4, but you had nudges before that. And
Hmm.
I think it's important to say that. Um, Part of what I believe is it's building that muscle to trust, to have faith in those nudges, that they're actually, even though they may not be quote unquote logic based, override that. Because first of
Yeah.
all, we're emotional beings first. We're made of energy.
Yes.
Um, we know that information comes in through our heart intelligence and wisdom.
Hmm.
So you did get those nudges.
Hmm.
And I know today, paying attention to those nudges, that's a big piece for you,
Yes.
is living in alignment with your intuition.
Yeah. And I do now. I listen to those little messages, the little nudges, those the felt sense that come in of like, no, that doesn't feel right. Yes, that does feel right. But again, as you know, and we'll tell your listeners, it's a practice. And just like
Yeah.
anything, like riding a bike, you may not be that good at it at the beginning, but over time you get better. So one of the things that I tell my clients is, if they haven't really tapped into it, start small. Like start with, do I want coffee or tea this morning? Do I want scrambled eggs or a hard boiled egg? Just start with easy things that don't really matter
Yeah.
and build up that strength and that muscle, and then continue to add bigger things as you start trusting yourself.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, there's like that building that kind of awareness, and with things that,
Yeah.
like, if you decide scrambled or hard boiled eggs, like there's no big deal.
Yeah. Right. There's no
Right.
real consequences.
There's no, hopefully, real consequence. Right. Exactly. We hope for your sake there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that, and I know that's become really important part of your life. The other thing that you mentioned that I just think is so important to say, and in a culture that is such a victim kind of type of culture, it's very easy, especially when challenges are happening, getting
Mm,
divorced, consciously uncoupled, whatever's going on, challenges, it's easy to point a finger. It's easy to say, well, it's that person. And even if they are challenging, even if they are, it was not the most supportive relationship. What I really appreciate that you said, and I really want to emphasize this for my listener, for you right now, is to make sure, like what you said, Laurie, is to look lovingly at your part, at
Mhm.
yourself. Look in that
Mhm.
mirror, because it's always both people involved to some
Mhm.
degree.
And it's funny because I was just recording a podcast yesterday with somebody, and sometimes your part is only one to, well, it's start with 1%, right? I mean, your part is probably more than 1%, but start with just accepting that 1% if you can only accept that.
Yeah.
And, typically it's going to be more than that. And yeah, you might be married to a narcissist or, somebody who's very controlling or difficult. And maybe they do have a larger percent, but we have a part in that too because we're allowing it, right?
Yes.
We're allowing it. And
Yeah.
there's lots of, we won't get into it. There's lots of reasons why that happens.
Yes.
But that's the piece that we can look at.
It reminds me, I'm remarried, and in my first marriage, and I always say it was a good person. He's an amazing father. Definitely it felt a little more of he's got a more dominant personality. Let's put it that way. And I always say, and I set it up that way. I
Mhm.
allowed for that and set up that relationship
Totally.
where, part of speaking, having a podcast, doing these things is to heal my throat chakra, my voice, to speak up, to speak out. I know you have a similar thing,
Yes.
and it's, important for me today. I get to choose this. And so, I don't blame him at all. Like, if anything, and this, he's a teacher. I'm sure your former husband, major teachers. We can learn from
Mhm.
those experiences and those people. And it's more empowering when we say, it's what you said, like, let me look in the mirror. What is my part here?
Yes.
What wants to be healed and changed? Okay, friend, I'm just taking a quick break here. I wanted to pause for a moment to share something really exciting and to announce that enrollment is now open for the next cohort of my Life Designer Coach Academy. This is a premier holistic coach certification program. So, this 4-month live program is perfect if you are looking to enhance your skills or want to become a spiritual life coach. I will teach you my proprietary sacred coach approach, as well as the techniques that I have been trained in my master's degree and that I've been using for over a decade with hundreds of clients and leaders worldwide. This program, I want you to know, is not only for those who want to become a coach, but also for anyone wanting to grow personally. And I did want to share, you might have heard my interview with Emmy Ray talking about coaching. She is one of my graduates who is a life designer coach for high performing entrepreneurs. Emmy has said, after doing many, many trainings, that this was one of the best investments she has ever made in herself. Yay. So I want you to know I would be so honored to have you in this next cohort and help you become the best version of yourself while empowering others to do the same. Let's work together so you can do what you love. You can help others to create and design a life they love and to shift consciousness. Learn more and enroll today at juliereisler.com/certification. All right, back to the podcast.
Yeah. Well, and that's beautiful. And that's what I talk to my clients about too. And my friends is what can we learn from this about ourselves? And
Yeah.
even now, I'm in a relationship now, but I dated for 3.5 years, and I have some other friends who are single and dating as well. And a couple of them are therapists. So we get together and we talk about it, and they're like, I am still learning about myself. That, even though I only dated him for 4 weeks or, whatever, 2 months, I have learned so much about myself. Again, like I thought I was done learning. You
No.
don't. It's a journey. It's not a
Yeah.
destination.
Oh gosh, that cannot be said over and over again enough. It's true. It's true. It doesn't really, we don't cross the finish line. Well, look, the finish line is when your last breath, and then you move on to the
Right.
next adventure. Personally, I
Exactly.
like to keep learning. So
Exactly. Although there's days, like
yeah,
Oprah
yeah.
said. God, don't teach me anything today. Like,
Yeah.
give me a break today, please.
Can we have like smooth sailing today? I'm good. I got my lesson from yesterday. I'm still applying it. I'm still working it out. I'm still working it out. Well, and that was one of the things, in talking about nudges, I remember when you reached out and it was such I just loved your energy and what you were working on and getting to
Thank
work
you.
with you, coach you. I remember I'm like, this woman is so open and willing and eager to look at what's your part and how can I take this and make a bigger impact? And it's one of the things
Mhm.
I just resonated with you and love about you is wanting to help more people, especially as a relationship coach now, as a podcaster and author. How was that experience? I know you've coached others. How was it to be coached? You can be real.
It no, I had I had done a little bit of coaching prior, when I was going through my course, like the other coaches and I would trade, but, no, it was great. I thought you were fabulous and you definitely, pushed me and you saw when I had fear, and you were very encouraging with that. And, I think when you and I were working together, I was resistant to the podcast thing. And so I kept trying other things and which was good for me. And I think I needed to go through all those different things. And some of them I continue to offer today, some of the courses and, that we developed together or that I developed while working with you, I'm still offering. So, I loved our time together, and I thought, it's interesting because when I interviewed a couple of people and I really thought about this process of hiring a coach, it wasn't an easy decision for me either because the part of me oh, why can't you figure this out by yourself? And I'm like,
Yeah, sure.
I'm a coach, like I need to get, it's okay to get support. So I worked through that
Yeah.
and I was really looking at two people. It was you and another person who was a master coach through the training that I went through, who I adored. But I have to tell you, um it was your energy. It was
Mm,
your I don't know, the way we connected. It was that
mm,
connection, and that's something that I really pay attention to, which is part of the intuition piece of that is
mm,
an important piece. And I just felt like you were a little bit more giving with your time and your energy than this other person. I felt like this other person was like, okay, she was going to do what she needed to, but I didn't feel like she was going to go above and beyond.
mm,
And even just through our brief conversation before I hired you, I just sensed that you were there for me, right?
mm.
You weren't there to make money. You were truly there for me. And yes, the money is part of it. Of course, we all need to make a living, and I understand that. And that's why I chose you.
Mm,
Um, so kudos for you for, really
mm,
putting that vibe and that energy out there, because that's, as a spiritual individual and as a coach, if you're looking for a coach, that's so important to pay
yeah,
attention to, right? And it's not always going with the cheapest option. It's about
yeah.
what is the right fit for you as an individual. And I felt like you were
Mm.
the right fit by far. So thank you. Thank you for being my guide and thank you for nudging me in the right direction. And I was like, there were times when I would be sitting in our one-on-one sessions and I'd be like, ah, shit. Okay. I'm just, I know what this is. Like, I would come up with other reasons why, because I did have a lot of other stuff going on. Like, my dad had just passed away when we were working together. And and so I had to, manage because I was the executor of their estate, very, very small estate, whatever money was left after caring for them for 14 and a half years. But anyways, it was just, I had other things going on. And then, during the holidays, I've got my 4 kids coming in and out and everything. But so what was my point with that? Um, but thank you for nudging me. Thank you
Yeah.
for really holding that space for me in such a beautiful way and really kind of carrying me through kind of a difficult time and getting me
Mhm.
over that threshold. And even as a coach, it's like, I know what it is,
Yeah.
but we still have to work through it.
Well, I am like literally blushing. So thank you for what you said. I'm so touched. Thank you. And I think there's something so interesting that you said, a couple things. One, I've seen this both, and I'm imagining anyone listening, if you're a healer, a coach, a support, a therapist, I think number one, what you said, Laurie, in the beginning is there's this faulty belief like, oh, I should know how to handle this. I should know how to coach
Yeah.
myself through this. I shouldn't have to need that. And yes, I think getting trained as a coach helps you to absolutely ask new questions, learns how to reframe, how to have new perspective and listen, all those good things. And like, I know for me, I always have a coach. I know the power of it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like there are things we can't see, those blind spots. But the other piece is when you brought up the fear, I
Mm-hmm.
think as human beings, especially for women often, and especially when there's a pivot like what you've gone through, you're in a way, I always looked at you like you're rebirthing your Youest You now.
Totally. Oh, yeah, absolutely. A little late. I'm a late bloomer, but that's okay. Better late than never. Right.
Yes. Never too late. And, it's interesting, the fear, and I think this is something I'm just remembering, like really, and I still feel this way with you. And I think this is what you were getting to as well. It's funny, we're back to those nudges, like trusting your nudges, right? Like
Yeah.
it may not always, you might be surprised, like, oh, I feel more connected to this person for some reason, and then trusting that, which I
Yes.
so appreciate with you.
Yeah. Well,
The
and
gift.
also
Yeah.
recognizing the ego, right? And
Yes.
or the fear, or, however you want to describe it. It's like, y- y- is this fear of, you know, what I think could happen, right? Well, what
Right.
is you? I know you just interviewed Marianne Williamson recently. What's her famous? One of her famous lines
Oh,
is, um, "Who are you?" You ask yourself, "Who are you to do this? Who are you not to do this?"
yeah. Yes.
Right? And so that is something that always pops into my head. But yeah, our ego wants to keep us safe. Or if you want to go into the brain, our amygdala, I mean, we are
Yes.
wired to look for threats, but we're not living 2,000 years ago, or, when we're
Yeah.
worried about getting eaten while we sleep, right?
Right. Although I
We have
don't love
different fears,
camping.
but
For that reason, I
so
don't
it
love camping. I will be honest. In Alaska, I had a freak out. I really thought I was going to be eaten by a bear. And I was like, this is not for me. It's just
oh
not.
my
I don't
god.
think, but that's a
Well,
different story.
yeah, I know. I just went to a bear camp and actually spent time with bears
Oh, my Lord.
with
Yeah.
my daughter, so
Good for you. Yes. But for the most part, we don't worry about getting eaten. Go back, Lori. I'm sorry. I took you off.
yeah,
I was like,
no,
oh my
all
gosh.
good, all good. So yeah, and I think part of it is recognizing, is this fear? Is this my ego controlling my decisions?
Yeah.
Or is this really my intuition? And typically
Mhm.
it's, it's like when we're in that calm state, those are the messages that
Yeah.
our intuition comes,
Yeah.
not
Beautifully.
when we're feeling afraid or overwhelmed or in fight, flight, or freeze state.
Yeah. Yeah. Such good reminders. I think, the power, and I know you do this as a coach, especially for women, and wanting relationships or relationship coaching, I think any really well-trained coach, it's like you can see through the fear, right? And really be able to, and I remember with you, I was like, oh, no, 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 we're not letting that get in the way, because I can see and hear and sense. And this is why it makes me so thrilled. I know I was recently on your show. It's like, you birthed the podcast. You'd already birthed the book. You have another book. Like these gifts that come through us, and I think this is what Marianne was trying to say. Like, they're divinely inspired. They're from the
Mm-hmm.
creator. We're here to create. If you let fear, doubt, those stories get in the way, you're blocking this birthing process of the gifts of these beautiful, these offerings that can really make a difference in the world. And sometimes it might
Absolutely.
look like a course where you get a lot of people, you might have less people. We're not here to judge that. And that was so clear with you. I remember when we connected, I was like, this woman is on a mission, and I love supporting badass women on a mission. Like, you're doing it, and I commend
Thank
you. It
you.
takes something. Yeah.
Thank you. And, this is what I want to say to anybody that's listening too, because this is one thing that I use. You kind of transfer you transfer that strength from one area of your life into another. And so one of the things that I use is, if I can go through a divorce, I can do anything. If I can end my marriage, which I thought was never going to end, because I was of the mindset of, I am in this for life,
Yeah.
but, you know, life happens and you have to change your perspective. If I can get a divorce, I can do anything. If I can write a book, I can do anything. So where have you succeeded in life, and or where have you found that strength, that courage to do something, the tenacity to do something in your life? And how do you transfer that into something else and squelch that fear? Right? How do we do that? And that's a practice too, right? Like,
Mm,
I still do it. I'm like, I got a busy day. How do I
yeah.
prioritize?
Oh, I love, love, love that. I'm just making note for my beautiful listener. You will have access to these notes in the show notes, because there's a lot of little, like, just these phrases and questions you're asking. And I'm like, oh, these are so powerful. We love our powerful questions. So I will definitely add these. And before we wrap, I do want to just ask you, I know that you've used this term Freebird. It's like your essence. Like, where did that come from? What does that mean to you? How can we
Yeah.
all, like, embrace the Freebird mentality? I know with your podcast, but in general, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So when I was when my youngest, which are a set of identical twins, were going off to college, I had a lot of friends that were coming up to me because they were my youngest, like, "Oh my God, aren't you sad? You're going to be an empty nester. What are you going to do?" I'm like, you know, a- and after a couple people said that, I was like, I'm not an empty nester. I'm a free bird. Like, this is an opportunity for me. Like, look, don't get me wrong. I loved staying home to raise my kids. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. And my kids are my pride and joy. But after raising kids for 25 years, and again, I was still taking care of my parents at this time, I felt a sense of freedom within, of like, oh my God, I can start doing stuff that I want to do. At the time I was getting more involved in volunteer work in nonprofits in the LA area. And so I could dive into that. I was thinking, I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go. Writing my book was one of them. And so I've actually had this term Freebird for a long time. And when I was writing my book, um, it came to me of, oh, I think the sequel to Sandwiched is Confessions of a Freebird. And might still write that book, but I thought, no, this is the name for my podcast, because we're in midlife and beyond. And how do we find more freedom, more joy, more happiness? Because by the time we've gotten to midlife, we've been through a lot, right?
Yeah.
We've, you know, we've had family that have had issues and illnesses and maybe a divorce or loss of a spouse. I mean, there's been grief and loss and so many experiences that have affected us, and we can choose to let that affect us negatively and stay there and let it define us, or we can use it to power us to continue to pull out of there and grow from our experiences and learn from our experiences. I chose the latter. I chose growth.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so
Yeah.
I'm inspired to continue to help other women in midlife and beyond just how to make the most of their second or third act. Like, let's make this the best part of our lives. We have so much wisdom. We have so much experience. Let's use that to our advantage and have some fun.
Oh, Laurie, I'm like just grinning, and this is like a rally cry. So if you're midlife in your second or third act, even if you're not and you're like, I just want to have more fun. Yes, we want you to have more
Yeah.
fun. Yes, go
Yeah.
for it.
More
Yeah.
joy, more happiness. We all,
Yeah.
and that's it. It's like, I think we forget through raising our kids, through, all life's trials and tribulations, like we deserve this. And
Yeah.
I didn't always believe that. When I first started my journey, I'm like, really? Am I allowed to be happy? Hell yeah,
Mm,
we
absolutely.
are.
Absolutely. Well, and of course, the more you feel joy, the more you radiate that, the more good energy
Yeah.
that's put into the universe. Thank you for all that you're doing. But we'll have all of your information. But I know being a relationship coach, as an author, as a podcaster now, and to me,
Yes,
yes, you're doing it. I'm like, yes, she is. You got
I
courses,
know.
retreats.
Thank you for your support.
It's my
Yeah.
pleasure. As I said, supporting badass women on a mission is like, yeah, we need more of this feeling, feeling joyful
Yeah.
and leaning into the freedom into your next act, and just appreciate who you are in the world, what you're birthing, how you are helping women,
Mhm.
especially, and by modeling it. It's not about a perfect journey. It's about just deciding
Mm-mm.
I'm not going to go with fear today. I'm going to go with the nudges, my passion, my intuition, my
Mhm.
purpose, and I'm going to do that.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, right?
Sometimes you just stand in a place you've never been before thinking, what the heck is this? Until it feels comfortable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Exactly. I love that.
Well, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for the opportunity just to share your story. I know that you really care about this work. It's one of the things I love about you is there's just a genuine wanting to be of service and help other women, whether it's in their relationship with others or themselves, and you're really skilled at that.
Yeah.
And that is a whole other conversation, but of course
Well,
the one with yourself is so important. Yeah.
it is. And thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story with your listeners. I'm so honored. And I love everything that you're doing. I love being part of the community that you've created as well. So thank you, thank you. I am forever grateful for that.
Thank you so much, Laurie. And on behalf of both of us, I'm going to thank you, my beloved listener. I hope you really, really took the essence of this conversation and get that it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your circumstance, what you've gone through. You can, first of all, pivot. And follow those intuitive nudges. Like Laurie said, don't get hit by 2x4. You don't need to do that. Follow the nudges.
Don't.
And yes, don't do it. Listen to yourself. And this is all about that freedom, as Laurie says, being a free bird. So that leads you to loving, to being your Youest You, and hoping that you got so much from this
Yeah.
conversation like I did. Thank you, my dear. Love to you.
Thank you.